Hi everyone, this is my video presentation for Chapter 2, Liberating Structures. I have broken my presentation up into some sections just because I think it's easier to follow along with my own thinking, so don't mind me just looking back and forth from my notes. In the first section, I just kind of wanted to highlight what I agreed with and already knew. I already believed before reading this chapter that who is speaking, how they speak, the room they speak in, and the structure of that room were vital components of how an audience engages with a leader or a speaker in the room. I've even kind of seen things like this within my own classroom and noticing how my students respond to different setups of desks, the type of desks, or even the way that I present new information to them. Another thing that I've noticed and I also agree with is that having a clear purpose and structure, whether it's in the classroom or for adult professional learning, create more buy-in and ownership for the people participating. In this chapter, it made me realize that a lot of ideas that I had were aligned with it, but it also made me question what were the right ways to go about liberating structures. For my next section, I want to actually get into my muddiest point. So when I think about my muddiest point, I think about the chapter and reflecting on it, it really called out some of those conventional structures such as presentations that take up most of the time, open-ended discussions, or even top-down facilitation. And they show all the ways that those aren't effective. But it kept making me think about the ways of if we just X them out and toss them out and say they're not effective, how do we replace them? How do we make sure that these liberating structures fit into these imperfect situations? And so coming across some real examples of resistance when it comes to these liberating structures, they almost revert back into the conventional structures because of things like our time constraints. Professional learning time isn't unlimited, as we all know. And so it is difficult to only have a certain amount of allotted time to get in intentional practices within all of our stakeholders. Another thing could be kind of learned helplessness. Some of our adults expect our professional development or professional learning to be top down. They don't expect it to be meaningful to something that they can apply into their own classroom. And so it's almost resistance as far before they even walk in. What do they really expect from the learning itself? Another factor could be those group dynamics. We always have voices who dominate others. We have more outgoing people versus more reserved people. We have newer teachers who might be afraid to share their opinions in front of more veteran teachers or veteran administration and don't want to get called out for things that may be considered wrong. And so without these structures, it can lead to things like side conversations, unclear goals, frustrating because there is no direction, participants feeling like they're wasting their time or they're just checking off a thing from their administration team. But if there's too much structure, we feel things like being shut out. We start to mentally check out. We don't want to speak up because it feels like decisions have already been made. So what's the point of disagreeing? We miss the opportunity to really create something meaningful. I've also thought about how to apply those 5 control elements that the chapter spoke about, and it still feels somewhat muddy. I've thought about different examples like rearranging seating or our discussion protocols. But what if you're met with resistance from the other educators in the room? You can craft thoughtful invitations, but what if people don't want to respond? How do you make sure that everyone is engaged and everyone wants to participate? You can split the groups intentionally, but if they don't want to participate with the people in their groups, there'll be resistance there. So I think either way, there are real concerns. And so the chapter doesn't fully answer how to fix these problems within professional learning opportunities. After this chapter, I'm realizing that we can definitely name the structures that aren't working, but it takes more time to find the solutions that work for our own organizations. And even though our how still feels muddy, I think the most important thing that I've walked away with is how to make sure that our professional learning opportunities are authentic to our space and to what each of our educators actually need, in a more creative, co-creating space where educators and teachers get the chance to speak about what they want to learn about, and so that there's more ownership and accountability.